Hello, welcome to InsideBoxing's Throwdown. Myself, Aurelio Martinez, my co-host Eric Duran. We're going to talk to you today about tomorrow's fight, Canelo versus Angulo, and what we can expect from that fight, and is it going to be a good fight? We'll talk a little bit about the undercard. We also have a couple of segments coming up later on in the show where we'll talk about Adrian Broner and Amir Khan and all that foolishness they're going through on Twitter, okay? And we'll also talk about Julio Cesar Chavez. You know, Cesar Chavez, he all of a sudden found a new life on boxing and looks like he wants to get serious. And it actually looks like they got negotiations going for him to fight Triple G, Gennady Golovkin. So we'll talk about them in other segments. But hey, Eric, let's get right into the tomorrow's fight. What's your take on the fight? Good fight, bad fight?
Well, I think it's a great fight for boxing. Golden Boy is in this push now to make Canelo a bigger star. Obviously, he fought Floyd Mayweather in his last fight. It wasn't his best performance, but any pure boxing fan and someone who studies the game had to know going in that he was up against a test that he was not going to pass and he was probably going to fail.
Yeah.
And he did fail. However, he is still a budding star. It's a pay-per-view fight. I think Golden Boy released a statement where they have 2 to 3 fights this year for Canelo, and they all want him to be on pay-per-view to see how big of a star he can be. I think this is a great fight for him. However, I think it could be one of those trap fights. Anyone who's watched Alfredo Angulo it's his nickname. He's a dog.
And Perro, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He is a dog. He comes to fight for, if it's an 8-rounder, a 10-rounder, a 12-rounder, he is there every step of the fight. In his last outing against Eder Lara, who 200 fights as an amateur, Olympic pedigree, one of the best young up-and-coming boxers in the game, and he hung with him for 8 or 9 rounds. And he put Eder Lara down twice. And Eder Lara is a better boxer than Canelo. He's a boxer.
Movement-wise,
he's a boxer who can use his feet, who has deceptive power, great hand speed. So I think Alfredo Angulo is going to give Canelo a bit of a trouble in this fight.
But I think we'll see. I agree with you. Right now, let me ask you something. Is Canelo Alvarez the big star he is? Because he's a big star in the Mexican community. More so in the Mexican nationals rather than the Chicanos that live in the United States, but by far under both. The Mexican people, they follow him. But let me ask you, he's a big star. That's one reason why they're putting this show on pay-per-view, because it's not pay-per-view worthy, okay? But because of Canelo, that makes it a pay-per-view event. Now let me ask you something. Is he a big star because his skills and talent and all that good stuff, or is he a big star because there is no other Mexican superstar out there? We don't have the J.C. Chavez out there. I mean, so what do you think?
Well, boxing skills, he has the skills to pay the bills. You know what I mean? A lot of people discredited him early on in his career because they were feeding him opponents. But you don't beat guys like Austin Trout if you don't have the skills.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Good point.
You don't put 40,000 people in the stands if you don't have the skills.
Yep. Good point.
But it's just not boxing.
Well, I think
he's a handsome young man. It's the same thing with De La Hoya.
Yeah.
He can fight. He's good looking. He brings not just boxing fans. He brings women. They show up in droves.
Yep.
To see him fight. He seems charismatic. He seems very outgoing and open to the public. He has a great sense of humor when he brings it out. Overall, he's just that total package that can be, bigger than a star, a superstar. If he builds the resume, he can be iconic. Because if he starts beating guys You know, like he already beat Trout, he beats Angulo. You know, he starts lining up guys like Cotto or Martinez in next fights. Then he can become an icon. Because then it's not, he's not just good looking. He doesn't just bring fans.
He can fight.
He fights.
He can fight. Well, I think that's good. I also think this fight's a pretty good fight for Canelo. Coming off his loss and his dismal productivity against Mayweather, and I don't want to fault him too much on that, because who's going to go in and fight Mayweather and actually look good? Not a whole lot of people. Okay, I mean, I think the only one that actually looked a little decent for one round was Sugar Shane.
Yeah,
you know,
and Cotto,
2 rounds.
Cotto had his moments too. You know what I mean? But realistically, we got to go back to Jose Luis Castillo. You know what? Zab Judah had a good 6 rounds against Mayweather.
Yep.
But we're talking in his, is he 49-0? I mean, you're talking 5 or 6 guys who've had maybe a good round or two, or, you know, had a decent effort.
Yes.
But it has nothing to do with Canelo. That's Mayweather. You know what I mean?
But that's good. I think the fight's good. It's good for Canelo. He can come back. He can perform well. He can get that feeling back to where he's on top and not take the back seat to a fighter. And I think that can all come back to him. I don't think Alfredo Angulo poses any danger to him outside of, you know, lightning striking someone twice in one spot. But I think he'll go in there and he'll perform well, possibly even stop Angulo, and then put his track back up on top.
And that's what we have to look at, is he is coming off a loss. You know, and we've seen this many times with prospects. They lose one time, and mentally they're done.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
The great fighters can rebound from losses. We got to see if he's a great fighter or if he's an elite fighter. If he can bounce back from the Mayweather loss in good fashion, you know, he's right back on track. Let's get it going.
Well, I mean, you have to question that.
Yeah.
I mean, he took some time off. I mean, so you have to question how it affected him, because he wasn't one of these fighters that just took the loss in stride and says, okay, well, let me go back. Let me just get right back into the ring. He, you know, something the public don't really hear. He took some time off. So what really went through his mind? What happened in this camp?
Exactly.
You know, we just don't know. So
yeah, and it's actually a pretty good card. You have one of the best up and coming world title contenders in Leo Santa Cruz on the card.
I like Leo. Yeah.
You have hopefully Jamar Charlo is still on the bout. If anyone don't know, his opponent Carlos Molina, who is the WBC champ, was arrested 2 days ago. The bout is still in limbo. Jamal Charles, I did a boxing's top 10 prospects for 2014. He was somewhere on that top 10 list. Carlos Molina is a great, well, I want to say great fighter. He's boring to watch. He just happens to win when he's put in the ring. You know what I mean?
He's straightforward.
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
straightforward, and he's one of them. He's one of them sneaky fighters.
Yeah.
Nothing there. You're not going to see a lot of movement. You're not going to see, but you're going to see him in your face.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just, that's him. That's
so
his style.
This was a great test to see if he's, you know, can stay at that championship level, or if Jamal Charlo was ready to, you know, take that step up to the upper echelons of the boxing game.
Yeah.
So it's actually, you know, we might not agree on the main event. I think it's a great toe-to-toe. You know, fans are going to be on their feet when they slug it out. The undercard should bring a lot of excitement to it.
I agree with you. The undercard's great. Talking about Charlo, I think the fight's going to happen. You know, someone gets arrested. Doesn't take long for a promoter, managers, and all that to pull him out. You know, go pay the bond, do whatever it is, unless it's something super serious.
Well, speaking of that, Al Heyman just bailed out Antonio Tarver on a $200,000 bond. So I mean,
Tarver,
they should be able to get Carlos Molina out in time for a fight.
That's what I mean. Plus, you know, it has to be a decent payday for Carlos Molina, and you know he's been crying for big fights, and so this is actually an opportunity for him as well.
Yes.
So I think you'll see that fight, but I mean the whole card is actually pretty good. I mean, read off some of the undercard.
Well, you see, you got Santa Cruz versus Christian Mijares. Mijares is 48-7. You know, he's a veteran. He's been in there with many of the big names in boxing. You have George Linares, two-time world champion. He's also on the card. Like we just mentioned, Carlos Molina versus Jamal Charlo. And, of course, they threw Alvarez's brother on there, Ricardo. He's fighting Sergio Thomas. It could be a great fight. If you haven't seen any of those Sergio Thomas or Ricardo Alvarez fight, get it on YouTube. You know, they're both pretty good fighters. But like we said, from top to bottom, it's a great card, and Golden Boy has been doing that with these last, a lot of these pay-per-view shows. They've been putting on top-notch undercards to help build up the main event.
Well, and I think it gives to the public some, because I think they, you're paying pay-per-view now is not cheap anymore.
It isn't.
You're paying $59, $69 if you're going to get it in high definition. That's a lot of money to pay. One person alone in one household. You have to bring friends to kind of split that cost, because the cost is up there. So give the people what they, at least give them a show, not just a funky undercard and then the main event.
Yeah.
Because if the main event goes sour, let's talk about the fight real quick before we get on other subjects. How we see the fight going on. I'll talk a lot. I'll talk a little bit about how I see the fight going along, and then we'll kind of see which one of us we're closest to see how it goes. But I'm gonna tell you what. Flat out right, I think you're going to see Canelo come out. Okay, he's going to be forward motion, aggressive, and he's going to just literally work and pound his way to a victory. He's going to go to his body, Angulo's body. He's going to wear up Angulo's body and basically just kill the body. Pretty much make Angulo quit. Okay, I mean he's going to wear him down, take the fight out of Angulo, and he's going to cruise to an easy victory, and may even stop him in the later rounds. That's the way I see it.
But we really defer on the fight then, because I think for the first 6 or 8 rounds, it's going to be a toe-to-toe battle. I see both fighters going down in this fight. Maybe Canelo going down early, coming back and putting Alfredo Angulo down at some point in the fight, maybe putting him down twice. If anyone gets stopped, I think it's Canelo who gets stopped. I don't think Alfredo Angulo gets stopped in this fight. He gets beat by superior boxers.
Okay, good.
Canelo's a great boxer, but he's not a superior boxer. Okay? I think it's a 12-round barn burner in the area of 115, 113 for Canelo, 116, 112.
So you think it's
but
close.
I think both fighters. I think both fighters touch the canvas in this fight.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you what. The public would love that. That's what they pay for.
Exactly.
I see it as a one-sided fight, to be honest with you. Go ahead and tell the public the times, the showtime, what network, all that good stuff.
Showtime pay-per-view, 9 p.m. Eastern, which would mean 7 o'clock in the Mountain West, 6 o'clock in the Pacific. I don't know what cable providers you have, but DirecTV here, Comcast, Dish TV, they're all showing it. Tune in. I think you guys are going to enjoy a great night of boxing.
Well, I'm just reading through this, and Eric, the tickets for that are priced at $600, $400, $200, and $100. So they're not. They're not
too
real
bad.
cheap.
They're not real.
Well, in comparison to you.
Well, I go to Mayweather fights. That's pretty cheap right there.
Well, it's expensive to me.
Yeah. So if you're in the Vegas area, the MGM Grand Resort, and they happen to have a few tickets left, and you can afford them, I don't think you're going to miss out on a great night of. I think you're going to miss out on a great night of boxing if you don't attend.
Well, if you're in Vegas, you might as well catch the show. I mean, it's going to be great. So. Well, good. We want to come back and we want to talk a little bit about the Amir Khan, and we'll kind of lead into that, and Adrian Broner, and then Chavez. But let's kind of lead in before we go break and then get back to the segment. Let's lead into the Amir Khan and Adrian Broner fight. It's going to be on the Mayweather undercard. Okay.
Well, this goes back to putting on exciting undercards to lead up to a main event. Floyd Mayweather, okay, he's your main event fighter against Marcos Maidana. That that should sell on its own.
Yeah.
But you put Amir Khan versus Adrian Broner as your co-main event. It was the same way that they did Canelo and Mayweather when they put Matisse and Garcia as the co-main event.
Yes.
It made for a great night of boxing.
What's kind of funny though is the poll, the people poll on Mayweather's wanted to see Floyd fight Amir Khan, okay, and he kind of went against that, whatever, it might be money, it might be whatever the case, but in other words, he kind of stuck it out there. He's the one that started the instigation. He said, you know, you guys want to fight on my undercard, why don't you fight each other? And then basically said right to Amir, you beat Adrian Broner.
You get me in September.
You get me next. So,
exactly.
All right, with that guy.
Before we go, I want to wish a happy birthday to one of our biggest fans. She watches every one of our shows. Mom, happy 51st birthday. I love you. Thank you for everything.
All right. Happy birthday. Okay. We'll be right back with the second segment. We'll continue talking about Amir Khan and Adrian Broner. What we see, they're talking trash back and forth. So we'll come back and we'll give you our take on what's going to happen, if anything's going to happen.
If anything.
Okay? We'll be right back.